Welcome to episode 015 of the Bit Beacon broadcast. It's still December 26, 2023. This is our first episode of the new year, but it is pre-recorded.
Yes.
But the usual guys are here. You got myself, Kodaks.
Ravenheart, Rick for short.
And we're going to jump straight in to what have we been buying? You been buying much of anything?
No. Well, my Castlevania arrived.
Oh, you did get your Castlevania already.
Did you get yours?
No, I think I maybe bundled it with some other non-related thing,
gotcha.
So I'm gonna wait.
Delayed.
Yeah. Which cover did you get?
Shoot, I didn't know there were multiple covers.
So yeah, this is the Castlevania Advanced Collection,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
With all the GBA games
Correct.
on it.
So it's like that. Okay, mine must have been Circle of the Moon.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's the one. It's like kind of like a very anime looking.
Yeah. Well, the character has like short blonde hair.
Yeah.
I wish I got Aria of Sorrow because that's my
Right,
favorite.
Yeah.
But
I think they let you select a drop down and pick which one you wanted.
they didn't for me.
You maybe just went with the default.
Okay. Oh well, that's fine.
That's fine. I've had a few. I had a limited run order show up today actually, and then I had a couple other pickups over the last week that I got as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start real quick with the limited run order that came in. The first game I have is The Rumblefish 2, which is kind of like some obscure fighting game, my understanding. It was made by, Dimps, who you may know as the makers of the Sonic Advance games.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I don't know, I thought the art was pretty nice, and I'm kind of into like...
It's got that SNK look.
It does have sort of an SNK look to it, for sure. I thought, like, why not pick this up?
Yeah.
Interesting title to have in the collection. And I like the heritage of, the developer. My copy of River City Girls 2 finally showed up. Of course, after I just attended two different
events with the developer
where I could have had it signed. So thanks, Limited Run, for really getting the timing on that one right. Now, my understanding is that River City Girls 2 and the Rumblefish 2 have been shipping for months.
Mm-hmm.
The game that was holding my order up was this game right here, Radiant Silvergun, which is, I believe, a port of like a Saturn shoot 'em up or something.
Okay.
It's made by Treasure, who's known basically like the premier developer of like shoot 'em up games in Japan.
Okay.
And so I guess there was some trouble getting this port just right, but they eventually got there with it. I think it came out on PS4 as well as Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to finally have this one. Shoot 'em ups are like, I think the last time this game released was on like Xbox 360 Arcade.
Okay.
So this game hasn't been available modern platforms in a long, long time. So cool to have this back.
I would play it on Saturn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say definitively that it was on Saturn, but I feel like it was on a Sega console back in the day at some point.
Gotcha.
But that's just me kind of talking out of my butt.
It could be Sega CD.
Yeah.
I guess.
I do know for sure that it did release on like Xbox 360 Arcade though.
Okay.
And I think this is a port of the Xbox 360 version, which
it.
was developed by Treasure, and it had like some extra features that weren't available in the other version, or the original version.
Cool.
And then at Target, I'd recently got a $10 gift card to Target, and a new Samba de Amigo game came out from Sega.
Mm-hmm.
This one titled Party Central. It was on sale for $15, and with my gift card, I was like, I can spend $5 on this.
Yeah.
So I picked this up. I think it's like a rhythm game, you know what I mean? It's like Donkey Konga kind of thing.
Right.
I was shocked to hear that there was a new Samba de Amigo game. I don't think there's been one in a really long time, but Sega's trying to bring back its older IP.
I don't know if this was part of their plan. This particular.
Maybe not this particular. I think it was like Xbox 360 era that I think Samba de Amigo, like that kind of time period where this character was like kind of more of a thing. And then another game I picked up, something I've been wanting to pick up for a while, but I just didn't grab it at full price because I know that this publisher tends to discount their games after a little while. So this is Anonymous Code, and it came just with a launch edition, which has the original game and like a full
SteelBook.
Yeah, so the SteelBook is separate from the actual game case. It's like a bonus item attached, and it comes in this nice kind of like thick sleeve around the SteelBook and the game case.
Yeah, like a cardboard box.
Yeah, and this is part of it's a visual novel, but like an adventure game, set in the science adventure series, which means it's kind of related, set in the same universe as the Steins Gate series and some other visual novel.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a big fan of Steins Gate. And then there's like Robotics Note, and now we have Anonymous Code, and so I'm excited to check this out. I've been really wanting to play it. I love all those games.
Cool.
And so yeah, I had a few pickups. Some things I bought, like more than a year ago, and just finally getting here. But it's nice to receive them.
That's a good haul.
Yeah. I'll switch too. Nothing for.
Yeah.
I don't normally buy. I don't know. I want to have a cartridge.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I like that more than having a disc.
I do get it.
Yeah.
A lot of those are kind of relevant to some of the topics I wanted to talk about today. So one thing I want to bring up is just the overall topic of the retro gaming boom, and what's old is new again, and what's old is cool again.
Yep.
And I just want to unpack that and kind of examine what caused it, where is it going, new ways to play old games, including emulators. You have the Analog Pocket yourself, which allows you to play the original cartridges.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yes.
And not to mention, just old consoles and those games selling at massive prices.
Yeah.
Prices in some cases. Games that I picked up at Game Crazy and GameStop back in the day for $5.
Yeah.
Like Sonic and Knuckles on Genesis. I bought it for $5. It's worth, I don't know what, but way more.
Yeah. I mean, I just think about when GameCube games were like dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Like when used GameCube games, you could get like Paper Mario for $10.
Yeah.
And now that game is worth like over $100.
I think on GameCube, the most expensive game is a college basketball game.
Right.
Forgot the title. It's ridiculously
they
priced.
made like 1,000 copies of it or something like that.
But one in particular is Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix. Goes for insane hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, because people want, like, maybe they don't collect every game for the GameCube, but they want like every Nintendo or every Mario game.
Right.
So like that means they gotta have the DDR Mario game.
There are retro game collectors that want just all Mario titles or all Mega Man titles and that kind of thing.
They have like a sub sort of collection thing that they want to go for.
Exactly. But yeah, if we look at, and especially certain consoles have taken off too.
I feel like it's almost like a timing thing. It's like when the main target audience of the original console gets to be a certain age, starts having expendable income, then they're like, oh man, I love that.
Remember my NES? Yeah.
So why don't we just take this from the top here, though?
Yeah, go for it.
What
do you think caused this?
I mean, I feel like I just kind of said what I think sort of causes it.
Yeah, okay. People growing up. But, I mean, there is at least one past generation prior to our generation that I don't know if they grew up with gaming, but they had games as kids, as teenagers at least. And that didn't really happen with them.
Yeah, when you look at a lot of like NES games, I mean, are there some valuable ones? Sure. But like they don't seem to have the value that like the preceding, like the 16-bit or the 32-bit like gaming generations have?
I don't know. I feel like NES collectors, like
a loose copy of Super Mario Brothers is like $5.
Right, but that's just because they're everywhere.
There's like 100 million copies of the game.
But if you think about like World Championship,
I mean, that's not a retail cartridge.
Right,
though.
it's not, but it's a good example of like something on a console that's like millions of dollars, which it wouldn't have been.
Maybe. I mean,
not millions, but like 25,000.
Yeah.
Big difference. But you get what I'm saying? Like, that wouldn't have been worth that when we were kids. When Game Crazy was around.
No.
It might have been worth a bit.
Well, so it's like, well, then what? Okay, kids today, where we're at right now, so they got Switch, PS5, Xbox Series X, whatever.
Right.
Do you think? I think there's gonna be less. I think Nintendo will always retain some sort of like high value interest for people. But I mean, when you look at, we were just talking about how kids want less and less physical games today.
That's true, yes.
For Christmas, like physical games are at the bottom of the list. That like only like 20% of kids wanted a physical game for Christmas.
Right.
So it's like, I do wonder when they're in their mid-20s, early 30s, are they going to be interested in hunting down their favorite games or like expanding their collection, completing their collection?
Probably not, seeing that they're interested in convenience over preservation, but also that all the games they grew up with were digital download
initially. Or they had the option to at least download them digitally,
right? So yeah, and I don't see Gen Z and Gen Alpha really caring as much about Genesis as people who grew up with Genesis.
That's why this like the value of a lot of these things is like speculative and just like of the moment, because 30 years from now, we're going to be in our 60s. People older than us are going to be older or dead.
Right.
And then it's like, then these games that were valuable, the amount of people who are around to care about them is going to diminish.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, then those games people won't even value them at anything because no one will have even known them.
And the speculators who kind of jumped on the bandwagon and suddenly got interested in this stuff after the fact, after it started going up and got popular.
Hold on. 100 years from now, there's going to be barely, well, let's just assume everything's fine and the world is still spinning.
Okay.
Humanity hasn't destroyed itself.
Right.
There's going to be like teenagers who are like, oh, I'm into games from, 1990.
Right.
Isn't that like kind of crazy to think about?
100-year-old games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're playing. Like that's what they're into.
I think there's enough people who are interested in preserving this kind of stuff.
Oh, it'll be able to be found.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a crazy thought for sure.
Yeah.
Getting back to what caused this, though, when this whole kind of speculative bubble started taking off, I noticed a lot more people.
Well, when did this happen? Early pandemic, right? 2020.
It went up in price.
I feel like that's when games got nuts.
I think it started before that. I think it started before that. Okay. But I do think 2020 pandemic gave it another second wind of raising prices. But there's a few factors there. One is the pandemic and everyone being at home for sure. The other thing I think, or at least prior to it, is the whole situation with WADA and Heritage Auctions kind of just
for those of you that don't know,
prices.
People can get people grade their comic books. That's something that's been happening for years, and more recently it's become more popular to grade video games.
Yeah.
And so people have been grading video games, and then during the pandemic, I think, is when that one Mario game went for like $1.2 million dollars or something ridiculous like that.
It was something. It was like a box copy of Super Mario World or something like that.
But it was like some slightly like there was something different about the like Mario's hand was underneath the word or like the letters or like instead of in front of it or something like that.
I don't remember that part. I just remember it being a sealed copy of like Mario 64.
No, I think it was the NES.
Oh, okay.
It was like Mario 3.
Oh, yeah.
Mario,
yeah. Different case.
Yeah, and like it sold for like $1 million, and it got like news coverage like everywhere.
It was People like $1 million or $2 million or something like that.
Yeah, something just absolutely ridiculous.
And so that, and the two parties involved in that whole thing, Heritage Auctions and WADA, they pushed.
WADA being the grading company.
Right. WADA is the grading company. Heritage Auctions is a auction house that the CEOs were good friends.
Yeah,
and they were close. And they were in cahoots.
They feed off each other.
Both of them appeared on an episode of Pawn Stars where the WADA CEO, I wish I had their names in front of me now, was the expert who came into, and the other CEO of Heritage Auctions was the customer.
Oh, I wonder how much this is worth.
Yeah, and so, basically...
Well, hey, I got my friend out back. He can help you out.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. Like, I have a guy, and
let me call him in.
Yeah. And that was done by them to make, like,
artificial...
artificial prices for this stuff. There were a lot of instances where stuff was not right. And I think them just churning retro game prices started I think that started this upward slope. And that would have been before the pandemic. That would have been, what,
2018,
19? Okay. Maybe. I thought it was like 2017 at least. But anyways, so...
We've since seen prices fall.
Yeah.
I mean, to some extent.
Yeah.
Like these extraordinary $1 million games are now selling for like $10,000.
Yeah.
In like that kind of condition and like grade.
Now, that said, there are still rare consoles. Like there's a list of like the 20 rarest consoles ever made.
And I mean,
and stuff like that will always be expensive.
Definitely. And like even though games aren't at their pandemic highs, they're still higher than they were like pre-pandemic.
Right. Oh, yeah. 100%.
And still to get into collecting for certain consoles, I mean, you're looking to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, the Funtech Super ACAN console without cables or hookups or controller or anything goes for $1,000 some. Games for it can range from $300 to $700 for loose cartridges. An extra controller still in its packaging goes for around $300 to $400.
Wow.
But that is a rare console. Like, that was done by a company in Thailand that was going to be their answer to like the Super Nintendo, and they ended up dismantling. Like,
have you heard of the Mega Duck?
Yeah,
it's like a Chinese Game Boy or something
like that. Chinese Game Boy, and then there's the Tiger Boy or something like that that looks identical to it.
Yeah.
The Mega Duck. Even that kind of stuff is like up in value because people want it because it's unique. Yeah,
I can through the Analog Pocket, which is this device that's specifically made to play old games, either via cartridge or via the special FPGA cores that you can load onto the console.
Yeah.
It's not quite an emulator, it's something else. It's kind of like a hard thing. It's like it simulates the hardware within like
you can't really call that an emulator. It is actually playing the original cartridge data
as it would be played on real hardware.
Right.
Just with like a modern screen attached to it instead. You can do like the Mega Duck on there. You can do all kinds of things, and it's totally like community like driven.
Right.
That's a big thing about like the retro gaming community is that it is very much community
collaborative and stuff. Yeah.
It's people like do open source projects and just doing things out of the good of like preservation.
One website that I use a lot is Sega Retro, and these guys have acquired boxes and cartridges and manuals for all Genesis titles, all Saturn titles, Sega CD, Game Gear, which is what I use it mainly for. And they have high-res scans of the French box, the English box, the whole manual, every page.
Yeah.
And they've preserved that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
They only focus on Sega, but I use them a lot.
Yeah. I mean, like, things like that are, like, awesome, but it's like, I hope all that stuff is backed up on, like, the Internet Archive and other places, too, because if, like, that website goes down for some reason, it's like, all of a sudden, no one has access to it anymore, unless they all downloaded it and they gotta, like, piece it back together again.
Right. I guarantee those guys...
that community definitely would have backups.
And then there's Atari Age for, Atari, and they do more than Atari. They focus on consoles from that era.
Yeah.
Another symptom of, I think, the increase in retro gaming interest is the homebrew scene.
Yeah.
That's just...
Homebrew and ROM hacks and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, ROM hacks can bring, like, new life to, like, a game you've already played 1,000 times.
Right. And people dumping ROMs off of procured demo carts and prototype
you
cartridges.
can, like, find all kinds of...
Like, the version of the game from before the release.
Exactly. Or, like, the demo variant that was on the on-store cartridge, or the in-store cartridge that, like, has, like, maybe different content or content that never made it into the game or an abbreviated experience.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Some of this is kind of in a legally gray kind of area.
Yeah, I think there is a law or something where after it's 10 years old, you can't really go after people so much, or I'm not sure.
I mean, Nintendo would probably have something to say about they're constantly trying to take down ROM hosts and stuff still to this day.
Yeah, well, their attorneys pretty much make laws.
I mean, yeah, I think they give, like, Nintendo gives their attorneys carte blanche to, like, just do whatever they want, But I'm sure they give them instruction, like, don't let anybody.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, say what you want about Nintendo for going after people, but at least they, whether you agree with their distribution methods or not, they still honor their heritage. They still make it a part of their identity today.
They still value their properties enough to want to protect them.
Even though, like, a ROM is, like, like a Game Boy ROM or an NES ROM is, like, the easiest thing in the world to distribute.
Yeah, it is. And they've been quite brutal in their...
I mean, some people have paid hefty prices. But, I mean, some of these people have also been making millions of dollars off of Nintendo's IPs through ad revenue and stuff on these scummy
but
ROM
some
sites.
haven't and have been hit with bills like that. But yeah, the retro gaming scene has just really been crazy over the past 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stinks because getting into it, like, now there's a barrier of entry.
Oh, a huge barrier. I mean, there is if you want to do it physically.
Yeah.
If you're just someone who wants to
play
explore it and, there's the pirate method and it's free.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's a pirate thing. I mean, if it's for preservation, for storing ROMs and stuff.
Well, I think legally, if you own a game, you can dump your own ROM.
Right.
Like,
you just can't distribute it.
You're not supposed to distribute it. Now, some people kind of get around it where it's like, well, maybe I don't have a thing to dump my own ROMs, but I own this game, so I'm going to download a ROM I found somewhere else.
Right.
And then they kind of maybe justify it that way. And then you just have people who don't give, and they just download whatever they want, whenever they want, and play whatever they want at all times.
Right.
And I mean, when you're talking about, 20, 30, 40-year-old games, I don't know, part of me is just like, let people do it. There's no money to be made on these anymore. And
yeah, exactly.
Basically everyone's case, but maybe Nintendo's.
Right.
So just... you can't fight it. As soon as you shut down one site, another site will pop up.
Right. Yeah, there's no stopping it.
All you gotta do is literally go to Google and just type in, Pokemon Red ROM.
Right.
And then it'll 100 websites will come up.
And parties make the EverCart and stuff like that, where you can load the ROMs.
EverDrive.
EverDrive. Yeah. You load the ROMs onto the original cartridge hardware.
And then play it on real hardware.
Right.
Yeah. EverDrive is actually an awesome thing. I think it's made by some Ukrainian guy, I want to say.
Yeah. I know it came from Europe.
Yeah. And every year he does like a sale where he puts like the cartridges like 50% off or something like right around Christmas, and so people are always like waiting to buy it. But they're expensive. They're like $100 each.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
But he makes different sizes.
Oh yeah.
He does like everything.
Yeah.
Like every console, every handheld you can think of. I
kind of want to get one. Okay, so Analog, the company who made the Analog Pocket that plays the Game Boy games, they're making an FPGA N64.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I kind of want to get the N64 EverDrive just because my N64 collection is only like 20 cartridges at most, and there's a great library to explore there, but N64 games are like,
they're really expensive.
They're like $60 to $100 for anything decent,
and that stinks.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't that way. It's kind of a problem in a way.
So at least if you get like an EverDrive and you load the game onto it, you're still playing it on, the real hardware, even if it's a ROM file on a cartridge just the same way the original is.
It doesn't satisfy you as a collector, but it satisfies you as a gamer.
Exactly.
But yeah, are there any like old retro games that you would replay or want to play for the first time that you can think of?
Off the top of my head, I maybe mentioned this on another episode. I like to play through one of the Game Boy Pokemon games like once a year, at least. And then when it comes to or like playing something new, when it comes to Game Boy, that's like, I wish new games would just stop.
Yeah.
Because I just want to go back and play old games.
You can make it stop. You can just stop going for them.
I know, but it's like there's a new Pokemon game every other year. It's like I want to play that, you know?
Right.
But no, I especially, I want to dive more into the Final Fantasy series ones that I've missed, and Dragon Quest. I want to do, I guess, one old Dragon Quest and one old Final Fantasy. I'm going to make that my goal for 2024.
Okay. There you go.
I did Final Fantasy 2 this year. I didn't play any new Dragon Quest. I know Dragon Quest Monsters for Switch, the new Dragon Quest Monsters game just came out recently. I want to play the first one on Game Boy next year.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've got the perfect device to do it on. I own the cartridge. I had it as a kid. I had Dragon Quest 2 or Dragon Quest Monsters 2, Toby and Tara. They had they went for like a red and blue version kind of thing with that game.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to play that as well, or those as well. So I gotta sit down and do it.
Yeah.
No excuses.
I gotcha. I have a few that I think about often enough.
Okay.
Bluing Blitz on the WonderSwan Color is a game developed by Enix back in the day. It's a tactical turn-based strategy game, but with like World War I planes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And the characters look, I think it's the Dragon Quest artist that
Akira Toriyama?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like we're talking old stuff.
I wonder if there's like a ROM translation or something for it.
I'm sure you can find it.
Analog Pocket plays
I don't want that. I want to play it on the WonderSwan.
Okay, well, I'm saying like I could have access to it.
Yeah.
If there was a ROM hack, I could easily.
Another one is Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, which is the special edition, basically, release of 63 and a third, but with like 5 characters that weren't included or were cut from that.
Okay.
And I want that game. That's the rarest game on 64.
Okay.
So it's the most expensive one that you can buy. Hundreds of dollars.
Was that the like Blockbuster only one?
Yes. Yeah, it was only available at Blockbuster, so you had to rent it. So naturally copies are rare.
I'm sure someone had the foresight back then to be like, well, let me just claim I lost it and pay the $50 fee or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know that Clay Fighter was ever like a hugely popular franchise. Um, Regrettably, because it was my first game on Genesis.
Yeah.
That was my first game I ever owned. So yeah, Clay Fighter's
What's
like
the origin of you getting that game as your first
my
game?
8th birthday.
Okay.
I got the Sega Genesis Nomad
Okay.
with Clay Fighter.
Who picked Clay Fighter?
Who played?
Picked.
Oh, picked. My parents.
So they had no idea.
Yeah, they just bought
They're just
me.
like, let's get that one.
Well, he knows. They know that I'm like into martial arts and stuff, so
okay.
a fighting game makes sense.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that was how I got my first game and my first game console, and that's when everything changed.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, so Clay Fighter is pretty near and dear to me. That's the one game I haven't played in the franchise. There's also Judgment Clay on it's Clay Fighter 2 Judgment Clay on Super Nintendo. I guess I should mention that.
Okay.
I haven't played that.
I mean, there's like too many to count.
Yeah.
Like old games I would like to play.
Yeah.
Like when I say play, I want to actually like not boot them up for 10 minutes
Right.
and go, that was neat.
Just sample it. Yeah.
I want to actually like dive into these games.
Right. There's a lot of like side scroll platformers on Genesis and stuff I want to play. Some of them are really difficult and will take like a lot of time to beat. But, you know.
All right, I want to touch on some hostility from a moment ago from you.
Sure.
You seem to be very hostile to anything that is not original hardware and original cartridge.
I don't think hostile's the right word.
Dude, you got like violent for a second.
I didn't.
You're like, I don't want that.
You're playing it up. Yeah, that's not for me.
Okay.
I think it's pathetic, to be honest, to play games on new hardware.
Pathetic.
Like,
So that's where that sounds like very condescending.
Yeah,
rude,
it's
and
judgmental. It's absolutely.
But
and
why is
I
that?
I will judge you.
Okay, but why is that? But it's like you could either never play that game, or you could play it.
On that.
Yeah.
No, there are other options. You can get the original hardware.
Yeah, but I'm saying
play it like a man.
You don't have the money to do that though, because some of these games are like $10,000 or whatever.
Yeah, okay. If you're playing it on a ROM, I guess that would be the way to go.
So you'd rather play it on a ROM than play it on something that actually simulates like real hardware?
Well, your ROM is going on the cartridge that you're going to put into your analog pocket. So
Okay.
Put your ROM on an EverDrive
Right.
and then put it in your analog pocket.
Okay.
Or play it on whatever console it's on if
Sure.
you have that console.
Yeah, like I have like the analog pocket has like an SD card where you can load ROMs, but I also have a Game Boy Color cartridge that I can flash with Game Boy and Game Boy Color games.
Right.
So essentially like I'm playing it on a real cartridge.
I guess the way I feel about it comes from just people doing stuff out of convenience. And, you know, it just...
I mean, for me, it's a cost saving thing.
I get it. And that's fine, especially with games that you otherwise wouldn't have access to. Like, if you wouldn't have access to it, that would be the way to do it.
Okay.
But games that you would have access to, but you're too lazy to get the hardware.
I mean, I have a Game Boy. I could play things on my Game Boy.
Right, that's your Game Boy, but, you know...
Like, for me, it's like the whole, like...
We were talking about Wonder Swan Color when that came up, so I don't know why you're talking about Game Boy.
Well, okay, well, you're bringing up a scenario where... saying, so I have an analog pocket. It plays Game Boy games with cartridges.
Right.
And I have a Game Boy, which plays Game Boy games with cartridges.
Yes.
So you're telling me I should never play a Game Boy game on my analog pocket? I should only play it on a Game Boy.
If you have the cartridge and you have a Game Boy, yeah, I would say play it on that. That's the most authentic thing you could do.
You're right. It is the most authentic thing you could do.
Right.
But for me, it is not the most enjoyable way to play it. For me, like the whole like having to like sit underneath a light that's shining just
and
at
that's
the
where
right
we
angle.
differ. That's where we differ because the game was developed to be played on that machine with all of its faults.
Right.
Okay, and with all of its inconveniences.
The analog pocket will simulate those faults in some Like you
Nah,
can,
dude, you're making excuses now.
you can
You're
get
making
this,
stuff up.
you can get the barf green look. You can do all of that.
Yeah, they have filters on the analog pocket. That's not the same thing.
But I mean, they're filters that are they're simulating how it ran on real hardware. It's not just like an overlay that goes over it.
You're saying that it calculates the game visual output differently.
That's what they claim.
Okay. Cool. I mean, that's neat.
Yeah.
You go tinker with that. I'm going to play it on the original hardware in the most authentic way possible, the way that the people who created the game were developing it.
Okay.
That's just how, yeah, I'm opinionated.
You're inflexible.
Yeah. Yes, I'm like Disney when it comes to that. But yeah, if I'm going to pursue playing a WonderSwan color game, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out, get myself a WonderSwan color, so I can play a WonderSwan color game on it.
But it's in Japanese. You can't even understand the game.
That's the way it was created. That's my problem.
Right.
That's not the game's problem.
But I mean, would you say, does not understanding the language get in your way of potentially enjoying a game to its fullest?
Well, yes, obviously.
Okay.
If there are fan translations online, I'll play with that.
But so how are you playing with a fan translation on original hardware?
Having paper next to you or having a computer screen or a phone
typically when
next to
someone refers to a fan translation, they're referring to a patch
right,
that's applied to a ROM.
yeah, I don't play with that.
Okay.
Because that's modifying the game file.
Right.
And no. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I enjoy homebrew games. I enjoy mods, when I'm playing a homebrew game or a mod, but when I'm trying to get into an original title, no.
So isn't a fan translation just a mod for a game, essentially?
Yeah, but I don't want to play a mod.
Okay.
I'm not trying to go out play a mod. I'm trying to go play an original game. So I'm going to go pursue the original file.
Okay, so Pokemon, the officially English released version of like Pokemon Red and Blue is not what the version of the game that the Japanese creators made.
No, but it's an official version that was released in North America. That's
Right.
not the same thing.
But I mean, it features like censored characters.
That again, that's a mute point because what I just said, that's an official version released by the creator that made it.
By the publisher.
By the publisher that made it.
Okay.
Same thing. I mean,
I'm just trying to gauge where your lines are drawn.
You're not going to win this argument.
I'm not trying to win. There's no winning this argument for either of us. We both just have our own opinion.
I think if you're going to play authentic. And you can play your analog pocket. Like, I can't tell you how to play games.
Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you how to play games. I'm just trying to figure out where you draw the line in the sand and what is like acceptable and unacceptable to you.
Okay. I enjoy mods. I enjoy homebrew titles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fine with playing those if I want to play a mod,
Okay.
But if I'm trying to experience an old retro game title like Blue Wing Blitz,
sure.
My ideal scenario is to have the original cartridge, box and manual if I can swing that.
Sure.
And the original console.
Okay.
And that's how my most ideal way of playing that game is that.
Okay.
And regardless of convenience or my own laziness or not wanting to do all that work, that's all excuses. That's the most authentic way to experience that game. I
would agree with you that it's the most authentic way, but I don't think it's fair to call people lazy.
I figured you wouldn't, because that would be calling you lazy because you use this stuff. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fine.
I mean, that's like saying anyone who plays anything anywhere but the very first console the thing was ever produced for is some, like, lazy person.
The reason that people play these ROMs and stuff, do this kind of stuff, for the most part, you're making a cost argument, but it's really a convenience thing for most people.
I mean, I don't think it's like they're considering, like, oh, I could play this on the real thing. Or I could just download it. I think they're just thinking like...
Yeah, they are.
Oh, there it is. like I don't think they're weighing it in their head before they go to their favorite ROM site and download a game.
Right. Well, if they're just used to playing games on ROM,
right?
That's
like when
where
they were a kid,
that's the first place they're gonna
their
look.
cousin said, "Hey, you can find all these old games here," and so they're never thinking
right
that like, "Oh, let me break out my Wonder Swan."
Well, that's that's on them. Like
Okay.
But yeah, I just as a purist, I guess, I yeah, give me the original hardware, original cartridge. And if I have to have like a translation on my phone next to it, I'll play that way.
Okay.
And I think that, yeah, while I could experience it with better lighting and what have you, and there are ways of doing that, this is the hardware that the developer developed the game on.
Okay.
This is like this is how it was intended for me to experience it.
Okay.
By the creator.
I mean, that was not. I mean, I would argue that maybe the creator was like, okay, I got this job to make this game for this console, so I have limitations.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to think about what the creator was thinking. This is how it was released. This is how they put it in the world. Okay. This is how it was manifested.
Okay.
I'm not going to try to like perceive their mind.
Because I'm sure in some of their heads they were not thinking that the game looked like this. They were thinking, well, older games you had to use your imagination more and more.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, now imagination is stolen from the player.
Yeah.
Because everything is presented in such
in
realistic
like
fashion.
High definition, 4K.
Yeah.
All that. Yeah. So what's the problem? This is just more of that.
No, I just want everyone to know where you stand.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm a purist when it comes to retro games, especially. I'm a purist with all physical console games, but yeah, retro games, you'll find that I'm unapologetically a purist.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. If you want to play stuff on your analog pocket, you go right ahead. That's your prerogative. That's fine. But so speaking of retro games and retro titles, dormant franchises are something I wanted to discuss.
Okay.
Recently, Sega, really kind of publicly unveiled their plan at the Game Awards to bring back their old franchises, and in a modern way, like Crazy Taxi. Imagine Grand Theft Auto 5 or something.
Yeah. In
Crazy Taxi world. That's what I envision at least.
Right. That's where your brain went.
Right. That's where. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then same with all their other stuff. I don't know how you would turn some of their side-scroll platformers. I guess just open world adventure, that kind of thing. But we saw a lot of Sega franchises mentioned. Jet Set Radio, or
Jet Set Radio.
Yeah, that's right. What would be some franchises that you would like to see a new installment, like modern, full-blown installment?
Okay, yeah, this is tough because I didn't really get a chance to look too hard at these notes until not too long ago, so I didn't have too much time to think about this. But I guess I'm going to go back to some games that I loved as like a child that, just haven't seen the light of day. I would love to see a new Gex game.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, kind of in a similar vein of one of your picks there, a very tongue-in-cheek kind of fourth wall breaking silliness.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a new Vigilante 8 game.
Yeah, there you go.
Car combat.
Mm-hmm.
The last time we've had like a real big car combat game was like the Twisted Metal on PS3, I think it was.
Is that the last?
That's the last Twisted Metal, yeah. And which wasn't very well received, which was disappointing to hear. So yeah, I feel like it's been a long time since we've had like that kind of a car combat game. Mm-hmm. I know there's stuff.
There was Carmageddon on 64. That's retro, but there are other franchises that do that.
Let me see if I can think of one more dormant. God, dormant IP.
Yeah, something that hasn't been touched by anybody.
Let's bring Croc back.
There you go. Yeah, I should have put that one down on mine. There you go. Yes, Croc, please.
Which you mentioned as being originally pitched to Nintendo as a Yoshi game.
Yeah, by Argonaut.
And then later became its own thing.
It was retooled into Croc, yeah.
So, and I had that on PS1. I think I had the second Croc game as well for PS1. Did they go beyond that, or was it just the two games?
It was there was one on Game Boy Color, which was just Croc, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if that was like a separate installment or if that was just like a Game Boy version.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really just those two.
It used to be that when there was like a home console version and like a handheld version, they were like two totally different games.
Right, yeah, very. Developed by different teams.
Different companies. And that wasn't something you thought about when you were a kid.
Yeah.
But like to me it was like I was like, "Oh, I want that one," and my mom would be like, "It's the same game." I'm like,
right.
"No, it's not."
No, it's not. And if you go even further back, well, I don't know if it's further back, but Sega Master System to Game Gear were both 8-bit consoles. So you would think that just ported perfectly, but it didn't. And a lot of times it would be like, because I look at the credits for like the Game Gear games, an individual who did the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, I was at the River City Girls event at Gallery Nucleus, and one of the guys there was someone who worked on Game Boy Advance to N-Gage ports. And he specifically ported like one of the Sims games on Game Boy Advance. I think it was The Sims Bustin' Out. And he was the sole person responsible for porting it to N-Gage.
The official release.
Yes, the official N-Gage release.
Gotcha.
And he also there was like original content added to the N-Gage version as well.
Yeah.
That he was like solely responsible. Like he did the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that to him when he was there. I was like, "Oh, I was reading that you worked on the N-Gage." And I was like, "There's probably not a lot of people who can say that they worked on the N-Gage."
And yeah, it's crazy to think an individual did the Sonic port of, to Game Gear from Master System. The 8-bit Sonic. There's also the 16-bit Sonic for Genesis. Yeah. That's separate. For me, though, I already mentioned Clay Fighter. I want to see a new Clay Fighter. I dream about like developing it myself sometimes. Thinking about like online Clay as like a feature, and just having like a modern fighter that is Clay Fighter. That would be awesome.
Well, when was the last Clay Fighter?
It was Sculptor's Cut.
Oh, the N64 one. Okay, so it's been 20 years now at least.
Yep. Now, I know Interplay went out of business since.
And sold their IPs, right?
Their IPs got auctioned. I don't know who bought them or if they're still unclaimed. I don't know. But Clay Fighter, I believe, is in there.
You're going to have to track Clay Fighter down.
I don't know if the Earthworm Jim IP is in there. I know...
Well, I think the IP is owned by the creator.
Yes, but the game development rights.
I mean, maybe the early games. I mean, we were supposedly getting a new Earthworm Jim game.
There's a lot of confusion on my part, at least.
And Television Amico.
Yeah.
Which will never see the light of day.
And that game never existed. We got like a little demo thing of him running.
He walked back and forth. Yeah. That was something that
was just
guy whipped up in a weekend or whatever.
A flash animation, basically. Another one for me is Conquer. I want to see a new Conquer.
Conquer is ripe for a return. Yeah. I don't see why not. But I mean, if we haven't gotten a new Banjo-Kazooie game, I don't think we're getting a new Conquer game.
No, you're right. Yeah, I think Banjo-Kazooie...
That's a great example of a dormant IP. Yeah. That is like...
100%.
He just had a huge, big, like, Welcome Back and Smash a couple years ago.
And then nothing.
He got an Amiibo.
Yeah. And then
Microsoft's doing nothing with it. Apparently Rare, who Microsoft owns and like created Banjo-Kazooie, just isn't interested.
Yeah, okay.
But like supposedly Microsoft gives like teams permission to do what they want.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know how true that is. I don't know if someone was like, "Hey, we're really passionate about doing a Banjo-Kazooie," if they would just let anybody take Banjo-Kazooie. Right. It kind of reminds me Sanzaru Games pitching to Sony a new Sly Cooper game back in the late PS3 days. And then Sony greenlit it. They were that impressed, and we got a new Sly Cooper game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now Sanzaru Games is owned by Meta, and all they do is make VR games. But
that stinks.
Oh well.
Yeah, that stinks.
And for whatever reason, Sony's not interested in like
trying to get
bringing any of its mascots.
Yeah.
To like, I mean, we have Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, that's it.
All of their other like old school mascot IPs are dormant.
Which really stinks because Sly Cooper is a great mascot character. Yeah. Like he could be the face of PlayStation.
Ape Escape. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's it. I found it. I want Ape Escape to come back more than anything.
Rampage.
I wouldn't really... It was kind of a port of the original Ape Escape game for PS1. They put it out on PS5 last year. And I had a ball going through it. And I actually beat it this time.
Yeah.
Although I did, on a couple occasions, particularly the last boss, I had to abuse the rewind feature of the game to get through it because it was just excruciatingly hard. But wow, so much great music in that game. Just the vibe, the monk. I love those monkeys with the little light on their head.
Yeah, Ape Escape. One for me is Primal Rage. I didn't put it in my notes, but
Primal Rage.
Primal Rage. With that. Yeah, it's a fighting game on Genesis with apes and dinosaurs.
Okay.
It's really brutal, really graphic.
Have you ever thought of collecting every fighting game ever made?
No.
No?
I mean, I've really thought about collecting every game ever made.
Okay.
So...
then I guess technically.
Technically. But,
you know who's really working on that? The founder of Limited Run Games, Josh.
Yeah.
He is seemingly after a complete in-box every console.
I'm not doing that. I'm doing... I feel like my collection is purposed differently than what most collectors are going for. Most collectors would want complete in box for posterity and museum's sake. I think of my collection as less of a museum and more of a laboratory. Because I'm interested in dumping ROMs. I'm interested in preserving and tinkering with the data. Also looking into old games and stuff for mechanics, game mechanics. So I see it as more of a thing, like that.
Yeah.
I don't want them in boxes,
Well, you gotta pull out the heart from the body, son.
Yeah. You can keep your cardboard, that's fine. SteelBooks.
There's that judgmental Rick we all know and love.
Oh, yeah. Expect judgment from me when talking about retro games. I wanted to talk about SteelBooks though real quick.
And I happen to get a SteelBook quite recently.
We have an example.
Now this is... So let's talk about SteelBooks. Let's talk about how you do it wrong and how you do it right.
Yeah, please. Because this is something that's made me mad in the past.
So SteelBooks are these aluminum or tin cases where the disc or the CD is inserted and it sort of becomes it becomes like the retail game case for some games.
Right.
Or special launch editions or collector's editions. They won't have the normal plastic retail box with the sleeve artwork inside of it.
Right.
They just have this tin case with the cartridge or disc inside of it. And that's upsetting.
Yeah.
For a collector for multiple reasons. Because while it was officially distributed in this case, they're also selling a standard edition that has the artwork and the sleeve. And
matches your other games.
Yeah, and a SteelBook, it doesn't fit in when you put them side by side. They might be the right size.
Yeah.
They proportion it correctly, and that's cool. That's not just some one SteelBook fits all kind of thing, right. I guess. I mean, I like we have the Switch one right here. They actually made it the correct size.
I mean, somebody is catching on. Some studios seem to understand the importance of having both.
Yeah.
And not just... If I buy a $150 collector's edition that comes with the figurine and, all this, I better get the basic case for the game.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to give me a SteelBook 2, cool. That's a nice piece of memorabilia as far as I'm concerned. But I want that original standard case.
So for this anonymous code game that I got earlier, they packaged the game and the SteelBook separately. So, like, that's doing it right.
Yeah.
That's like, hey,
perfect.
Here's the game. Here's this cool commemorative memorabilia bonus along with your game. Enjoy.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can move the cartridge over to the SteelBook if that's your thing. Mm-hmm. We give you the choice.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's exactly how everybody who does SteelBooks needs to be doing it.
Yeah, and Square Enix also does it that way. They tend to include in their deluxe editions that usually have the game and a little art book and some digital bonus goodies or whatever.
Yeah.
They tend to include the game case and the SteelBook as two separate things. Like we saw that with Final Fantasy VII Remake. We saw it with Final Fantasy 16 as well. So that's nice. But Nintendo has been inconsistent about this.
Yeah.
Sometimes their collector's editions, which don't usually have a figure, and usually they're like $90 to $100, and they have like a nice hardcover art book and some other little bonuses. Sometimes they'll only have the SteelBook with the game card inside of it, and you don't get a game case. So then you find yourself in the position of wanting to spend an extra $60 to go buy the retail copy of the game, so you have that as well.
Yeah. I've also seen cases that the collector's edition gives you, I think you might have already mentioned this, a download code and a SteelBook.
Yeah, no physical game whatsoever.
Yeah, what is that?
They give you a SteelBook that's meant to hold a disc or cartridge. Well, generally this happens with disc-based games, I find.
Yeah.
Not so much cartridge games. You just get an empty SteelBook that I guess you're just supposed to put on your shelf and go, that looks nice.
Right.
So then you got to go buy the game so you can actually put the disc inside of it.
So we're going to give you a case for a disc and a download code.
Yeah.
And no disc.
But the download code does fit inside the SteelBook and the little part with the little prongs that holds onto it for you. So at least there's that.
Yeah.
That's what the publisher's hoping, you're saying.
It doesn't make any sense to do that. So yeah, it's really a love-hate thing when it comes to SteelBooks, at least for me.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are on the same page with SteelBooks. I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite SteelBook that you own?
My favorite SteelBook, this is an easy one for me. The European version of Link's Awakening, the remade version for Switch, got a special SteelBook only included with that version. And it's literally, the Switch SteelBook is the perfect size for a Game Boy.
Yeah.
And so it's literally like a SteelBook that looks just like a Game Boy. It's got like the indentations, like they molded with like the raised D-pad, the raised buttons, the little like dips where the buttons kind of are seated. And it has like the Link's Awakening like logo or something like that on the SteelBook, like where the green screen would be.
Gotcha.
And it's just like it's the best SteelBook ever made as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite SteelBook that I own is the PS2 version of Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Had a SteelBook.
Okay.
When Mortal Kombat Armageddon came out, all the different versions.
This is PS2?
PS2.
So SteelBooks were young then.
They were, yeah.
Yeah.
So Xbox, GameCube, and PS2 all had, or it was a Wii title.
Okay.
It wasn't on GameCube, I don't think. But they all had SteelBooks that had a different pair of characters on the cover. One was in the foreground, one was in the background, and the characters they picked had rivalries, or like it was Goro and Johnny Cage on mine. I like that one.
Oh, so there were multiple SteelBooks for this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it was, I think, different consoles had a different SteelBook.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So Scorpion and Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage and Goro. I forget who the other one was.
That reminds me of Cyberpunk. at Best Buy, when you pre-ordered the game, you would get one of 4 different SteelBooks just like added onto your order for free. So it's like if you wanted all 4 SteelBooks, you had to like
order the game 4 times
or more than 4 times, because you never know which one they'd give you. You know, they might get all 4 of the same one if you ordered it 4 times.
Right. See, this was a little different because if I'm correct, it was like the Xbox had its own SteelBook.
Okay.
PS2, that's a little different.
Yeah.
At least you're buying a different game for a different console.
I have an interesting SteelBook story for you.
Go for it.
No Man's Sky comes out. I buy the deluxe or little limited edition that comes bundled with a SteelBook. And I find that my SteelBook, one of the little spots near the side where you close the case isn't really clicking. Like, it's not clicking closed. And so I'm like, what the heck? I have a defective SteelBook.
Yeah.
It doesn't close. So I'm like, who makes SteelBooks? So I look in, it's this like company called Scanovo, Scanvo.
Yeah.
And I do some digging and I find like a contact.
Okay.
I find a contact email for them. And I think they're originally like somewhere in Europe, like Eastern Europe or something
really?
that. I think maybe they now have like a plant in the US that makes SteelBooks as well. But originally I think they were all from Europe. And so I send an email. I'm like, hey, I bought the No Man's Sky Collector's Edition and I got this defective SteelBook. It's like, is there anything you guys can do for me? And I get an email back a few days later, like, oh, hey, I still have a couple production samples. Let me send you one. And so in the mail, I get like a production sample for the No Man's Sky SteelBook.
Cool. That's cool. Is there any different markings on it?
I mean, there's nothing that I could see that would indicate it was a production sample over a mass produced sample, but I got the email from them that says it was a production sample.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was very generous of the people at Scanovo.
Yeah, it definitely was. That's cool. Let's see here. So let's take a break, actually.
Okay, let's take a break.
All right, so I was thinking I wanted to talk to you about a game that I have played in the past.
You've been playing this off and on,
yeah,
right?
Off and on, since it came out. It was a game that, when it came out, pre-release marketing was intense.
Off the charts.
Off the charts.
Like maybe the most hyped game in a long time.
Extremely hyped. And a lot of people were looking at it. It had a lot of eyes on it. You know, the art style, the theme, everything. A lot of people talking about it.
From the creators of the Witcher games.
Yes. That, of course, being CD Projekt Red.
Yes.
And, of course, I'm talking about Cyberpunk 2077. I was actually, when I was writing the notes for this episode, was listening to the soundtrack in my car. And that inspired
the soundtrack?
Me. Yeah, the soundtrack's awesome.
Where'd you get the soundtrack?
I was listening to it on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But there's one particular track, Resist and Disorder. Oh, man. That song is just so good. It's like this industrial metal style, KMFDM sounding.
So I should mention that I have yet to play Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes.
So I am learning about the game alongside you, the audience.
So I'll be explaining to Taylor.
Rick will be our guide.
Answering his questions. Now, I should explain where I'm at in this game.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a unique situation. I haven't pursued the story part of this game hardly at all.
Okay.
But I have 120 hours in.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
I didn't know the game was that big.
Yeah, it's huge. It's ridiculous. And as you move through the story, which I haven't done, more opens up. So more like you have Watson, your main area, and Kabuki Town and all that. And just that alone, like the exploration is, I haven't even seen it all. And then like South Bay or whatever is going to open up after a certain point. And there's like 4 regions. So it's like 4 open world games in one map.
I feel like before you get into talking about the games too much, you were talking about the release of the game and how hype and anticipated it was.
Yes.
What happened when the game came out?
Well, the game had a lot of bugs. It was very glitchy. a lot of graphical problems.
Particularly on previous gen consoles.
Yes, so it came out at a time when we were in between PS4 and PS5.
Correct.
And it came out on PS4, and people playing it on the PS5 which was me, were experiencing less issues, manageable issues.
Right.
Still, I would see people inside out and stuff floating. Like, I would see that.
Right.
But people running it on PS4, they were experiencing like game-breaking stuff.
It was unplayable.
Yeah.
On previous generation consoles.
So a big kind of letdown, I guess, for buyers of this game.
It got so bad that Sony and Xbox removed it.
Yeah.
From their storefronts, from their digital storefronts.
That's crazy.
I ended up getting the game for $5 at Best Buy.
Really?
Brand new, sealed with one of those SteelBooks.
PS4?
Yeah, the PS4 copy.
Okay. It's never been released on anything else.
There is a PS5 version of it. You can download
There's
now.
A digital version?
So with your PS4 disc, you have access to the PS5 version of the game. But you're essentially downloading a PS5 native copy.
Okay.
So made for PS5.
Gotcha.
So you have access to that now. I don't know if like saves transfer or how that works, but something to look into maybe if you want to play like the next gen version.
Were they gonna release a physical PS5 version or no?
No, just the PS4 version that's out there. Because there was a sticker on it, on the PS4 version that said, get the PS5 version of the game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't ready at launch.
Right.
It ended up coming like several months later.
I don't know if I ever bothered to download it.
Okay.
But my copy has that sticker.
Yeah.
I saw it. Also, I wanted to point out too that I didn't get swept up in the hype or anything, but looking at the game, I saw the potential of how unique it was.
Right.
And I did buy it, day one.
Right.
This might be the last game I bought day one. Maybe.
Really?
No, that's not true. But I went into GameStop, I put money aside, bought the official guide, like the complete official guide collector's edition, big textbook.
I wonder how accurate it is anymore. Given everything that's happened to the game.
Yeah, so a lot has changed in the game, but the mechanics are still the mechanics of the game. The characters
I just mean they've added so much.
Yeah, this has a lot of checklists and walkthrough of various side jobs and hustles that I'm going to get into, but as well as the whole weapon customization thing. Now, they added one thing to the game that allows you to equip the clothing that you want for the stats and stuff, but then equip a separate outfit to be your character's look.
So they call this transmog in a lot of games.
Yes, and that's the term used, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Because
I could have some goofy looking stuff that gives me really good stats, but I look stupid in it.
Yeah, so you want to look cool.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to theme your outfit.
I love that they added that, and that was an afterthought for them. But I'm glad they added that. That was one addition that I welcomed. CD Projekt Red, when this came out, I can't emphasize enough how bad it was.
Yeah.
It was really a problem for a lot of people.
So they kind of had a No Man's Sky sort of situation where reception was horrible.
Yeah.
People were upset and they, sort of apologized and kind of went to work.
Yeah. And
to get the game where they wanted it to be.
Exactly. And that's what happened. And they added a lot, I hear, because I haven't played the story. But they added
they fixed the game.
Yeah.
And then they just had a huge new expansion come out this year to the game, right? Liberty City or something.
Liberty City, yeah. I noticed that my map, in game, has a whole bunch of new stuff on it, a whole bunch of new hustles and side jobs.
Yeah, they had a 2.0 version of the game, that affected the base game.
Yeah.
Alongside the DLC, so adding new content.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and so the game wasn't big enough.
Right.
It was huge. So what I've been doing, so when you start the game, you're kind of forced into 2 missions, and then you get to your apartment, and then it pretty much becomes open world from there.
Gotcha.
And to start the story, really, the guy that you need to talk to, Jackie, he's sitting at the bottom of the steps at a table from your apartment complex, which is your starting point. I still haven't talked to him. I still haven't talked to him because I've been going nuts doing side jobs and hustles. Now, hustles are the points on the map of interest that pop up. You know,
They're basically side quests.
Well, there are side missions, like optional missions, and those are side jobs.
So hustles are just like little quick things
you
do?
Yeah, and there are a bunch of different types.
Okay.
So there's Assault in Progress, which is like the smallest type,
okay.
you know. And there's Organized Crime, which is more that if you go to one of those, you're going to be like infiltrating something.
Okay.
Like, you know, it's going to take you an hour.
This kind of reminds me of Spider-Man 2.
Really?
Or Spider-Man for PS4, PS5. Like, there's just these, like, little... They're not quite side quests. They're just, like, brief 5 to 15-minute distractions.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But by doing so many of them at this point, like, my character's level 20. My weapon is so upgraded that if I go do that first story mission, I'm just going to one-shot everyone.
Does it scale, do you think? Like, does it scale to what you're at? Maybe it won't be as big of a breeze as you... Okay, let's get off topic for a second.
Sure, yeah.
What do you think about games that scale? Like, where it's like, no matter what level you are, it's effectively playing the same way as it would at any other level you approach something at.
It's a mixed thing for me. I understand it, and I understand why a developer would do that.
Yeah.
I also understand that if I grinded to level 100...
I'll be rewarded for that.
Yeah, I should be able to just breeze through it.
Right.
So it's kind of a mixed thing for me.
Okay.
I'm not, like, turned off by it.
Yeah.
It just needs to be applied correctly.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. Like, I feel like you should have some advantage if you went through the extra effort to get upgrades and increase your level and stuff.
Exactly.
Maybe it shouldn't be, like, one-shotting everything, but you should feel powerful.
Right. Exactly. You should feel powerful. I can understand maybe the, like, story missions specifically scale, but everything else doesn't, or something like that.
What's the Sakaguchi Xbox game? Lost Odyssey, right?
Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon.
So Lost Odyssey, that game, I was playing it, I need to get back to my playthrough of that. Yeah. But I was playing it, and when you reach a certain level, like for the section of the game that you're in, enemies start giving like 1 XP.
Yeah.
Like the game is basically telling you can't grind anymore.
Right. And that's a good way to do it,
yeah,
in my opinion.
Like it's like you have to do this next part at the level you're at.
I'd rather that than scaling, to be honest. You know, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a genius.
Because it's like if the game is telling me I'm as high level as I need to be for this next boss battle, then okay, at least I know that.
Right.
Yeah.
They're taking away the incentive of grinding.
Yeah.
You know, and so at that point you're really just grinding for items if they're even dropping anymore.
I mean, you could theoretically get 1 to 2 XP and get a couple extra levels, but it'll take you hours and hours.
You could set up a bot to go play the game for you and do that. But yeah, that's a good way to do it. Okay. I like that, actually.
Anyways, back to Cyberpunk.
Sure. So,
you're level 20 walking into the first real mission of the game. See, I feel like if I were to get around to this game, I would probably put my blinders on and just mainline the story.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about you've spent 140 hours and you haven't even touched the story, that's intimidating.
I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Sure.
Like, I'm not even going to change the way I'm playing it.
That reminds me of how I play, like, Skyrim.
Yeah.
I barely touch that story in that game, and I just wander around and bump into one event to the next
Something's happening over here. And there's stuff that's not on the map. Like, you'll see... So there are a lot of different gangs and factions. Organized, you know, criminal syndicates, gangs. Tiger Claws, Maelstrom, the Valentinos... Tiger Claw in particular, they're like Japanese.
Okay.
They'll just be a bunch of them hanging out somewhere in some garage or something, and you'll see them, and you'll just go throw a grenade in there. You know, like.
Is this the kind of game where you can just blow anyone's face off walking down the street?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk about that. So. You know how, like, in Grand Theft Auto, if you start just killing civilians, your wanted meter goes up, and the cops are going to be in helicopters at some
Looking
point.
for you, yeah.
Yeah, first it's going to be like 1 or 2 police units chasing you, then helicopters. Like if you're up to like 4 stars or whatever. This game kills you. Like the cops in this game are, because the cops are actually treated. The game treats the PD like a gang.
Oh, okay.
Like they're like an actual faction.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like corruption with the story and stuff. Like they're in cahoots with different corporations, and but they have these drones that just fly around and just get right in your face and just headshot. Yeah, it's very hard to like survive a police attack like that.
So what happens if your character dies? You just go back to your latest save?
You go back to your apartment. You wake up in your apartment. I think the stuff that you have in storage doesn't disappear, but the stuff you had on you, I think, goes away. I think. I haven't actually died.
Gotcha.
So, but
or you have died and you're just like, F
yeah,
that, I'm reloading
I
my
reset.
save.
Yeah, that's happened a couple times. And the thing is that even though I'm level 20 or whatever level I'm at, I'll just go do more difficult side jobs. They're just on the map, you know. And so I'm never really feeling like I'm overpowered for not having started the story. Now, I could go start the story and feel that way. But, like, there's other, like...
Hypothetically, do you think you'll ever actually go to the story? It's been 3 years since this game came out.
So, the story intimidates me a little bit because it's very non-linear. It's very, like, decision-making affects the story massively. People who you don't fail to save are dead when they, in some later event.
So now that you're so overpowered, though, hopefully you can just save everyone.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't know what to do, and the person just dies.
It's like too late.
Yeah.
To like even know that you had to do something to save them.
And it's permanent.
So you're paralyzed with fear, basically. You start thinking about the story.
I wouldn't say that.
You're paralyzed with indecisiveness.
Yeah, eventually I'm gonna get to a point where I'm like, okay,
just gotta accept that this is how this game is. If I want to see more outcomes, I gotta play it again.
It's the kind of game that I get a hankering for, and I go back to. But I haven't been able to just sit down and just bust through it. Gotcha. I'm gonna go play the story. There's a romance mechanic where you actually like choose between 4 or 6 characters to have a romantic relationship with.
Okay.
The character customization in the beginning, you choose your character's genitals and the size and stuff.
Nice.
It gets. I don't know why.
Can you have like a robot genital?
You can have nothing.
Okay.
I believe
that's the closest you can get.
Yeah.
Okay. Now so these are humans that are augmented.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, they're not robots.
Correct. Yeah, they're organic humans with cyberware.
Are there
installed.
People who are just people? Or is it just so accepted that everyone is just...
Everybody is walking around with some degree of cyberware. Presumably they're... I haven't played the story. There might come up a character who's like fully organic or something like that.
I could just see like the boss of the corporations or something being like totally organic.
They sold it to everyone else.
Right.
And it's poison.
Yeah.
And it is poison because it does corrupt people. And the lore intensity of this game is insane.
Yeah.
Anytime you kill somebody and they drop like... You'll collect these shards, they're called.
Okay.
And they're basically like text,
Oh, wow.
And you'll find them in places, but some enemies will drop them.
Okay, are like just random NPCs walking by like 100% unique individuals?
No, the NPCs repeat, but there's a lot of variety.
Okay.
A lot of variety. And it's obvious that like you know what? Now that you mention that, I think that they have their character customization system. Write those characters,
right?
Because they're all you'll see it's the same person, but they're wearing different clothes.
Oh, okay.
And stuff like that. But they, yeah, everybody's walking around with cyberware installed. Some degree of it. Some people look like a robot, like a full blown.
Like they look more robot than man.
Right, exactly. And a lot of the lore involves cyberware, black market cyberware, cyberware that's like illegally harvested from, you know, human trafficking, basically.
Okay.
And a lot of these side jobs and hustles and stuff involve you infiltrating like these operations where they're actually dissecting people.
Okay, are you a good person? Are you like playing like a...
That's up to you.
Okay.
That is 100% up to you.
So like if you drop into one of these like human trafficking situations...
No. If you're in the mission, you're gonna go kill everybody. You know, you're
okay.
Not kill everybody. The game actually rewards stealth.
Okay.
Heavily rewards stealth.
Okay.
So if you can successfully kill the person you're intended to kill without being detected by anyone else, you actually get rewards for that. Unless the mission details tell you you need to go smoke these guys.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there were a couple missions where I actually successfully did it.
Okay.
That's not my play style in like action games. I'm more of a Rambo type.
Right.
Like a lot. So sometimes I'll just be like, screw the extra gun that I get.
Right. Yeah, the little bonus check mark at the end of the mission.
Exactly.
Does it let you replay missions, or like once you've done a mission?
It's gone. It's off the map.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And characters, like I said, that die in side jobs and stuff won't appear when they appear later.
Right.
And so... there's a lot of different hustles. So side jobs are like extra missions that are optional. Hustles are the ones that appear on the map. And there's assault in progress, organized crime, psychos or cyber psycho sightings, which are a special one where basically lore wise they're, you know, cyberware has caused this condition that
so they're
some of them get.
It's almost like how people today, they think they're buying some drugs and then they're laced with something else, maybe.
Yeah, so fentanyl or whatever.
It causes them to die, or like, you know, something bad goes.
Yeah,
something happens to them.
That's what happens. These people turn into basically like murderous zombies.
Okay.
With, you know, enhanced abilities.
Right.
And so you have to go kill them, and some of those are extremely difficult.
Okay.
And there's also like treasure spots on the map. There's Easter eggs, which are basically a dead body that's like hidden somewhere with a bunch of loot on it.
Okay.
And those will usually have a shard. And a lot of the shards dropped by people will be a correspondence. So it'll be like a text conversation. So you glean a lot of information from reading those about like how there's a lot of drug dealing. They have this drug in the game called glitter. Okay. That's like the big party drug.
Okay.
And it kills a lot of people. Like it's a bad drug to take. But you'll read about how like that. Another thing that they do is called brain dance, which is like this virtual experience that they do for entertainment. And it's literally like a in your head experience.
Okay.
You know, like, and there was one dead body I found. He was providing a snuff film experience of
inside his brain.
No, this was so somebody murdered some like the mayor's kid or something like that, or
sounds like a great place
to
live.
Some pastor's son or something got like, you know.
Okay, is there religion in the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of characters. There's this one guy that thinks he's a prophet and he's saying stuff, and you can choose to like give him a donation and stuff. The Valentinos, I think, are religious. I haven't really encountered them too much because I'm still, you know, you got to progress the story to get access to other areas, and those other areas are turfs of like gangs I haven't really got to experience yet. But what was I talking about now?
Sorry.
It's okay. No, oh yeah. So this one Easter egg body I found had like talking about how the guy died. He was a provider of like brain dance material, like homebrew brain dance material. And one thing that he was peddling was this snuff experience of this pastor's son that got kidnapped, and it got recorded as a brain dance. You know, and so you can
like relive.
You can experience being in the room with that. It's just a crazy game, and the world is so unique compared to. We look at like the Game Awards and all those trailers.
Mm-hmm. Well, they won an award this year.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
for best continuing game or something like that.
But with the world premieres, so many of them just felt, like the same game. All of them look great. Mm-hmm. You know, but
you're trying to be nice.
You know, no, I'm not. They look freaking great. Yeah. Every single one of them. But none of them stand out as like super memorable, aside from the ones I mentioned in that episode.
Right.
This, when you look at this world, it's like nothing else exists like this.
See, I wonder if CD Projekt Red, the developer, is going to continue to explore this new IP that they've created, or if they're moving on, or I think they said they're making a new Witcher game, which they said they were done with originally.
Oh, really?
But I think maybe because Cyberpunk sort of was a mixed bag at launch, they were like, let's go back to The Witcher.
Right. They're quick to pull that kind of move, but hopefully they do bring it back. I think it's a successful game now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see more of this. But anyways, yeah.
By the way, that guide is thick.
It's thick, yeah.
It's very thick.
Half of it is appendixes.
Yeah. Appendixes or appendices?
See, I guess appendices, whatever.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of information. Vehicles, like I haven't even touched on weapons. You know, there's a lot in there.
Can you just like hop in someone's car?
Yeah, you can carjack someone.
Oh, nice.
There's a certain skill level you have to get for certain vehicles.
Do you have your own personal car?
You can collect vehicles later in the game.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that, but I know you can. But anyways, yeah, so that's Cyberpunk 2077 in a bit of a nutshell. But we have some other topics, so I want to move on. One thing that I want to talk to you about, and this is really not a super serious topic, but something that we've both discussed and witnessed and experienced.
I'm witnessing it right now.
Yeah, I'm wearing mine. That is these sort of gamer-tude t-shirts. At least that's what we've...
So gamers with attitude. Yeah. They're like, so gamer-tude.
Gamer-tude is kind of what we've called them in the past. But it's these shirts that aren't really game shirts. It's not an officially licensed game shirt, where I'm wearing like a Streets of Rage shirt or a certain console.
Although there were, I should say, officially licensed gamer-tude shirts.
There were. Don't make me go Zelda
on you. Yeah, I wore that shirt a lot in high school.
High school, yeah. So those are a little different. I would still collect those.
Yeah.
Because
it's the Hot Topic era.
Yeah.
Of Nintendo.
But then there are like a ton of just generic ones.
Yes, and you're wearing one of those generic ones right now.
I have this one.
I'm going to describe it for everyone. It's, okay, so the background is like splattered paint on his...
all edgy and distressed looking.
On this like dark gray t-shirt, the splattered paint is like a very light gray. And it says, "Leave this to the professional." And in between "leave this" and "to the professional," it's got like a very generic outline of like a game controller.
Like a silhouette.
Yeah,
silhouette. But like generic for sure. Like, it's literally just the shape.
I mean, it most closely resembles, I guess, like a PlayStation controller, but it has like sort of the Xbox or SNES layout.
But what's unique is that there's just a D-pad.
Right. No sticks.
4 buttons.
Yeah, so it is like an SNES controller. Yeah. But it has like the protruding like wrist rest areas that modern controllers have today.
Surely you guys have seen these in the stores. You know, you see them at clothing stores.
I mean, E3, the merch booth was mostly filled with these kinds of shirts.
Yeah, so I wrote down E3 2009 because that was the year that we went in and got to experience the merch. And it was, a lot of just, you know, I'm a gamer, so what?
Yeah.
You know? or like, homework can wait.
Yeah.
Or, you know, something like that.
I'm playing games.
Yeah. That kind of thing. And, we have rolled our eyes pretty hard.
But then, I think about how I used to wear the Don't Make Me Go Zelda on You shirt, which was not something I would wear today.
No, don't.
And I remember there
don't
was
let me catch you in that.
There was a girl in high school who I was wearing that shirt one day, and she walked out to me and she's like, "Don't make me go Zelda on you, huh?"
Speaking of that shirt, that was the day that we first interacted for the first time.
Well, I wore that shirt probably once a week, if not every other week or something like that.
But it was because of that shirt that I first started talking to you.
So freshman year of high school, it's like nearly the end of the year. We're in algebra class, right?
Yeah.
Algebra 1?
Yeah, Algebra 1.
And I don't know if Rick is just noticing it for the first time or if he's like finally working up the courage. He's like, it's about to be summer. I better make my move.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, you like The Legend of Zelda?
That was the first words ever spoken between us.
Yeah, we had a whole class together. I never noticed Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
too busy watching some idiots run around the classroom all day.
Yeah, we had a few of those. But yeah, those were the first words that started it all.
Yeah, the Bit Beacon wouldn't exist if Rick hadn't walked up to me that day.
And asked you about that shirt. Yeah. So Gamertude shirts.
You know, making dreams come true.
Yeah. Just
changing lives.
Yeah. There's got to be some value. Credit where credit's due.
Credit where credit's due. Gamertude shirt designers, thank you.
Yes, but I've seen some.
Wow, dude, that's crazy. If we really think about it,
yeah,
it all came down to a Gamertude shirt.
Yeah, it did. That one was probably like if I had to pick a Gamertude shirt
to wear, it would be that one.
Yeah,
it would be that.
Because I've seen some really cringy ones.
Oh yeah, I wish I knew that we were talking about this because I've seen some like super obnoxious ones, like offensive. Like,
go for it. Like what?
I don't have any examples because I didn't know this was
it doesn't have
notes.
to be an exact example, but what was the vibe?
I don't know. Probably like I don't know, shooting or something. I don't know, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're putting me on the spot here, and I'm not ready to talk about this.
This is why you got to review the notes.
Well, dude, the notes were finished at 1:48 in the morning.
Okay, well,
this morning. Yeah. I've been at work all day.
That was a long time ago.
Okay, here's a good one. Gamer nutritional facts. And it looks like it's a nutritional guideline. If it doesn't involve video games, then I don't care.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a great one.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about when we say Gamertude.
Gaming mode activated.
Yeah, there.
I paused my game to be here. That's a good one to wear when you're out with your family.
Yeah, that's.
There's one that's like a heartbeat, but it's like the game controller cable, and it's like got the boop boop.
Yeah. See, again, generic. It's a generic controller.
It's not over yet, and it's got a gamer with like the resistance hand holding a controller with the RIP headstone in the background.
Right. So I mean, these shirts are everywhere. Obviously, we see them. Taylor and I collect game T-shirts, but we go for the official ones. We go for the ones that are about a certain game, are about a certain console.
You know, I'm sort of developing a nostalgia for these shirts all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's like I almost want some.
Yeah. Just because of how bad they are.
Yeah, like for the irony.
Yeah, exactly.
Or when I go see like a band or something.
I have this one, I guess. This one, I keep it because leave it to the professional. It's got a controller, and there's kind of a double meaning.
You are, you know, you make games.
Yeah.
So just, you know, kind of fits if I see how you could justify it.
But yeah, I'm where you're at. Like, you kind of start getting nostalgic.
Yeah, it's like,
because we've rolled our eyes and dismissed these hard in the past. But yeah.
Now I'm like, you know what?
Maybe I should have one.
Yeah.
Just one. But yeah, Gamer 2 t-shirts. Super important.
This has been a fun episode. You know, we're just like going from one random topic to the next.
Yeah.
We're learning about your elitism.
Yeah. Not elitism, purism. I'm not an elite. Like, I don't consider myself above the rest.
Right.
But I do, I'm passionate about
purity.
In retro games.
Just retro games.
And modern games. Game collecting.
Okay.
People do it wrong.
I know.
Some people do it wrong. Okay? That's just a fact.
Okay, I love that somehow you consider yourself a purist when it comes to retro games.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want the box and manual.
Yeah, so...
That's like the most... It doesn't make any sense.
That's something that is unique to me, because my purpose is for my collection.
Right.
And I don't want a $300 cardboard box. I don't want that.
Right, but if
I have one, I'll sell it.
Okay, so you go to the swap meet, you find some $500 game.
Mm-hmm.
The game's worth $200. The box is worth $300, and some guy was selling it for $10. You buy it.
Yeah, of course.
You're going to eBay and you're selling the box.
It depends if I need the money. I mean, boxes are nice We've talked about this. Will be a topic for a future episode, but we've talked about collectible trash, and boxes
are not collectible trash.
Yeah, they are.
No,
they're the top
not.
tier of collectible trash.
No.
Yes.
The game comes inside of it. It was how the game was distributed. You can't just sell a loose disc.
Yeah, but it's not like, then is the cellophane not trash? Because it was shipped with the game?
I mean, if you can keep the cellophane on there, keep it on there, I guess. Well, then what's the difference between a SteelBook and a game case, then?
Well, a game case is plastic and made to last.
No. I'm not talking about what it's made of. You said a SteelBook is a piece of memorabilia.
Yeah.
So collectible trash.
No. Memorabilia and collectible trash are two different categories.
But a game case is the highest form of collectible trash.
Correct. No.
That's what you just said.
A box.
What's the difference between a box and a game case? That's the box that they came in.
Yeah.
The case is a box.
Right. Of a disposable material.
Paper and plastic are both disposable.
A disposable material that's biodegradable. Your plastic game cases are not going to degrade. Your box, I don't care if you keep it in the most pristine condition, it will disintegrate. Like, it will disintegrate.
Okay.
Yeah, making it like a temporary material. Like, it's disposable. You guys are spending $500 on an empty box.
I've never spent $500 on a box.
$300.
I've never spent $300 on a box.
Hey, I don't care what you've spent. Pokemon Red boxes have gone for $300.
Yes, just the box.
Yeah, just the box. You're spending that, and it's going to degrade itself. I
mean, a $300 Pokemon Red box is like a pristine box.
It's a temporary material.
It's all temporary, baby.
I mean, yeah, if you want to, the Earth is going to explode and all your plastic and metal is going to be gone. But that's not what I'm talking about. Right. I'm talking about biodegradability.
We're getting way off topic.
Well, you brought us here.
I know I did. I was just bringing... Because all of a sudden you were calling that trash and then that memorabilia, and I was confused.
Yeah, there's a difference between paper boxes and plastic game cases. There's a difference there.
But a game... You're just calling it... It's a plastic box.
Okay.
Alright, so they're both boxes.
Okay.
One is made of paper, one is made of plastic.
Right.
I don't think just because of the material it's made of, it's not just is equally valuable or the same thing.
Okay.
All
I understand the value of the box.
I want to hear from the audience on this.
Okay.
All right. Audience members, you know who you are.
Yeah, is there a difference between game cases for discs and Switch cartridges and DS along with
is there a difference?
Yeah, is there a difference?
No, that's not what I'm asking.
But that's what it's coming down to.
Okay, is there a difference? Yes, they're made of different materials.
Yeah.
Okay, no one's denying that they're made of different materials. That's not the question being asked.
But if one is made of paper, that's clearly not made to last and wasn't intended to last.
The question I'm asking the audience is, do they serve the same purpose? They were used to distribute and hold the game.
That has nothing to say about the collectability of either.
I would say something that's more prone to more valuable and more interest. Like the reason why boxes are expensive
is because they're easily destroyed.
Because people didn't take care of them and they tossed them.
Right.
Like because they didn't think much of them at the time.
Because they were trash. That's why they threw them away.
I mean, well, first of all, my mom threw away all my PS1 game. Those are plastic.
That's different. That's your mom, we don't need these. But that's not like this is trash.
So yeah, it never occurred to me that those boxes were trash. Maybe it occurred to you that cardboard boxes were trash, but it never occurred to me.
I mean, they weren't intended.
Like they had the art on it, just the same way game cases have the art on it.
Yeah, they did.
Today.
And so does the piece of paper that comes in, packaged with, I don't know, Mario toy. That doesn't make it not trash just because it has art on it. Okay, I'm speaking categorically. I'm not calling it trash. I'm not saying you should throw your box away.
Okay.
But categorically,
I feel like this is stemming. It's going as a child, you threw away your paper boxes, and so to justify it to yourself today that you threw it all away, you've decided that paper boxes are trash.
You make it sound like that's just me. I did that. No, most people did that.
Okay, so you're admitting
only you nut jobs kept them.
But if they were plastic, you would have kept them.
Yeah, and I did.
Okay, case closed, everyone.
So, no, not case closed. I don't want paper boxes. And that's not because I threw mine away. I don't want them. That was not designed. The intention was not to be kept.
The intention was not to be kept.
Yeah.
And you're deciding that for the publishers?
I mean,
the intention of the box
they
was
wouldn't
not
have
to
made
be
it
kept.
out of paper if they wanted you to keep it, or if they intended for it to have that purpose.
The assumptions on assumptions here, man.
Yeah, but so are you. You're making assumptions too.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No.
You're assuming that, we need to keep this.
I'm not assuming that we need to keep this. I'm assuming that they designed it to hold the game.
They did design it to hold the game while it's
on shelves.
While it's in the store. All right, dude.
All right. Books are made of paper, so I guess they're disposable too.
No. This is not
because it's glossy.
No. This is a whole different thing, dude.
All right, Rick. What does 2024 have in store for gaming? You have some predictions here.
Yeah. So I expect to see some Nintendo console details coming out. Now that could be a reveal from Nintendo.
God, it better be a reveal.
More likely it's gonna be
both
details coming out.
Oh,
coming out. In
do you think we're actually getting it this year?
I don't know.
With Nintendo, it's
yeah.
It feels like the time to do it, but it's Nintendo, so. They're going to do whatever they're going to do.
If I had to put money, I'm going to say 2025.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, if it's 2025, that hurts.
Not really. I can wait.
I mean, I'll wait. But it's just I feel like we're noticing less and less third-party games hitting Switch now. A lot of the stuff that's being announced does not have Switch on the game console screen at the end of the trailer.
Yeah, but that I mean, is that really indicative though? Because how would they know? Like, how would a publisher, third party, like, developer and stuff know?
Well, I mean, we know that Nintendo has been sharing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just like, okay, Switch is done.
Right.
Or not worth porting to.
Or, like, games are struggling. I mean, look at Pokemon, man. Scarlet and Violet. We've talked about it before, but I mean, like, I've seen some wacky stuff just playing the new DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just the pop-in.
You're talking about, like, performance.
Performance, right? And just, like, graphical pop-in and just all kinds of, like embarrassing.
Yeah, it is embarrassing.
Where it's like, I'm not kidding you, full 3-second freezes. Yeah. Where I'm like, did my Switch just crash?
Right.
And I'm like, trying to press the home button and stuff, and then, like, the game just unfreezes.
Right.
And I'm like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That this is, like, a release candidate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the worst performing Pokemon game I've ever seen.
I mean, it's the most ambitious Pokemon game.
Yeah, that's true too.
At the same time.
I mean, Legends Arceus was a big game.
Pretty, and did not have,
pretty similar.
Yeah.
Didn't have any of this.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
And now you can argue, well, Scarlet and Violet's bigger. Yeah. Well, we should see a little bit of what we see in Arceus because it's it's in part like what that game is. But yeah, I don't know what to make of.
I'm going to say 2024. I'm going to say it's going to be in our hands by the end of 2024.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that's the case. So you think you're going to get a release next year?
I think
or this
before
year.
Spring is over. I think whenever they announce it, within 5 months, it'll be in our hands.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that leaves room for 2024.
Yeah.
Do you think they're that far along with developing the console?
I think so.
Okay. Well, we heard about 2 demos being played on it, so that would mean it's running.
I think components are being manufactured. Yeah. Final assembly is just not quite there yet.
All right, I might switch my vote to
I mean, I do think Nintendo could just be like, nah.
Yeah, they could do that.
They do what they want to do.
Regardless, something is going to come out. Be it details, be it reveals, be it, Nintendo Direct stuff about it. We're going to see more of the Nintendo console. I also think we're going to see more of an industry focus on streaming.
Okay, when you say streaming, are you talking like PlayStation Portal streaming? Or are you talking about like streaming a game from Sony servers?
I'm talking about streaming as a technology. So,
okay.
Including both.
Okay, gotcha.
Which, we can think of Portal as part of the push towards streaming. And I think we did in the episodes where we talked about it. Even though it's not streaming from Sony server, it is still getting streaming technology in the hands of gamers.
Right.
And it's trying to normalize that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I expect to see more of a push in that direction. And, more hardware coming out that supports it. And I also expect to see something that will fill the vacuum that E3 kind of left in its wake.
On that scale?
Maybe not.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Maybe not. But there is...
We were talking about Summer Games Fest last week.
Right.
2 weeks ago, I should say.
Here's what I think. There was some of E3 that was just unnecessary. We didn't need it. And that was a big part of E3's problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we did need from E3, which is now gone, there is still going to be a need for, and someone's going to fill that portion.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So...
like, there's a need for the industry to come together.
Yeah. It has to happen.
In Los Angeles.
I mean, I'd love to see your face. Oh, man. If it was like in New York or something. Every year. Every year.
I mean, that would be a bummer.
That would...
I mean, I feel like it doesn't make sense to do it in New York because you have Japan.
Yeah.
They're closer to the West Coast.
I mean, it could also be in Japan. Well, we do have events in Japan that are...
oh, yeah.
Tokyo Game Show and
I
stuff.
mean, it's weird, though. Like, American events will attract, like, an international... like, I feel like there's not as many Western devs going to Tokyo Game Show as there were, like, Japanese devs coming to, like, E3.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I think a lot of European developers went to Tokyo Game Show.
I think they would go to their like Gamescom.
Oh yeah, they have Euro
Games Fest or whatever, the Leipzig Games Fest
That's
or whatever,
right.
And then they would come to E3 too. But
yeah, I guess E3 really was, and yeah, I mean, I don't guess it was the hub.
Yeah,
for the industry.
Yeah, like the whole world.
Yeah, so
under one roof.
Maybe that does end up being the Game Awards
Or Summer Games Fest.
Or yeah, aren't they kind of? They're connected, right?
Well, yeah, they're both run by Jeff Keighley.
Right.
But like, Summer Games Fest is supposed to be like the announcement, and they've started dabbling in like having demos and stuff like for people to come see. But so far, it's just been like media and influencers only.
Right. But Summer Games Fest doesn't have the namesake that E3 had.
No, I mean, there's been like 4 Summer Games Fest now, though, so they're
right. Yeah, they're slowly building. Yeah. So that's why that's on my list. I expect to.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Summer Games Fest does this year. Do they finally rent a big space and try to like actually sell tickets for people to come play?
Right.
If they do that, I'm there. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. So what do you expect to see in 2024 for gaming?
Well, like I said earlier, I didn't really have time to check the notes too much today.
Well, you're on the spot.
So, I mean, I talked about what I feel like Nintendo's going to do. I think 2024 is the year where this does happen, where we get the next Nintendo console. Aside from that, I don't really have any major predictions or anything. I haven't spent too much time thinking about what 2024 will hold quite yet.
Do you see any kind of shifts or anything happening?
I mean, we talk about in the last episode like layoffs and things like that. I think there's probably more upheaval.
Yeah.
In various ways happening in the industry.
Sure.
I think there will probably be some shocking
layoffs.
Yeah, like maybe where it hits closer to home for some people, you know.
CEOs stepping down, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, this year was crazy.
Yeah.
Why not next year? You know what I will say is that if you're working for Nintendo, like, you gotta have one of the most secure jobs in the industry.
Yeah.
Because you really don't hear about Nintendo laying off ever.
Well, maybe Nintendo doesn't want you to hear about them.
I mean, people talk, though, dude, after they lose their job.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. I think Nintendo's pretty secure.
Their pipeline's good. You know, they just move people from one project onto the next one. So there's just that security and stability.
What do you think will happen with live service games next year? Do you think it'll be bigger, or do you think it'll be...
I wonder if maybe we'll see some of these things that like Sony's been baking, you know. It might still be a little too early given that the live service kind of push has only really been the last couple of years, and we know games take like 5 years to make now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'll have any more major developments or upsets there. I mean, there will be new live service games next year.
Yeah.
Things that we don't know about.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if they'll be like kind of smaller startup kind of, you know, like hopefuls, or if it's going to be like big industry members making their first live service game or not. I don't think there's going to be...
Do you think there will be more than this past year?
I think we're still at critical mass for live service games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I think the people who dabble in live service are busy with the live service games they already have.
Right.
I don't know that there's enough fall off from these games to entice players away who've already been investing so much time and money into some of these live service games where it's like they're just going to walk away from it and go try a new one that might not be around 3 months from now.
Right.
Like, if you found a live service game and it has like a really good base around it, and it's like there's the sort of security, like it's like, oh, I know this game isn't going away for the foreseeable future, then you're probably more likely to like not want to leave it because you've already invested time into it, you've already invested money into it, and there's like, oh, here's this shiny new thing, but
you already have power in the game as a high level character.
You're not starting out from scratch again.
I would hope to start seeing that shrink.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see.
I mean, Sony's going to put these games out. They got like 11 that they're working on.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, eventually they're going to see the light of day.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
At least Insomniac is given the, freedom to work on their first person or
right. I mean,
player.
Insomniac and Naughty Dog, their live service games are done.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not coming out.
But anyways, yeah. So we're looking forward to seeing what 2024 is going to offer us.
New year, new games.
New events.
New news, new events.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be exciting.
That's it. And transmission.